hit the go live button up there. All right, so it looks like we are all live. This episode of the Columbia Basin Herald Studio Basin podcast is brought to you by the Moses Lake Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber works to help businesses in and around Moses Lake flourish through networking opportunities, member-to-member savings for products and services, and connecting businesses with the resources they need to make Moses Lake a wonderful place to live, work, and play. For more information, visit moseslake.com or call the Chamber at 509-765-7888, and Debbie and Lori will be happy to help you. Also, should be noted, since this is an Ephrata-centric thing, go ahead and reach out to the folks at the Ephrata Chamber of Commerce. We're members here at the Herald, as well as pretty much every other city in our coverage area, because we support our local businesses that way. Thank you for tuning in and joining us. Today we have two special guests in on Studio Basin, and we're doing this live so that we can help people figure out who they want to vote for in the Ephrata mayoral race. So joining us today we have Bruce Reim, our current mayor and the incumbent in the race, and then we've got Steve Oliver, his challenger, here as well. A little bit about what we've got going on today. Both candidates were given their questions about 10 minutes ago. Prior to this podcast, they have not made notes or anything like that, but gave them a chance to prepare. There will be 6 questions, which includes our candidates introducing themselves. Otherwise, only my staff and I have seen these questions ahead of time. The candidates are being expected to focus on their policies when answering questions and maintain a civil tone with one another throughout this event. Mudslinging and personal attacks will not be permitted. Disagreements on policy may be brought up in rebuttals, but must be kept civil. The candidates each rolled a die prior to the start of this event, and in each other's presence, the highest roll allowed the candidate to choose whether he or his opponent answers the question first. Steve Oliver won the roll-off and elected to have Mayor Reim go ahead and have the first question there. Excuse me. Both candidates will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves. Afterward, the remaining 5 questions will have 3-minute answers, and the first person to answer a question will have 1 minute after the second person's response for a brief rebuttal or clarification. The person to answer first will be alternated. For example, for those items that Bruce answers first, Steve will get a chance to answer, but then it'll alternate, and Steve will be the first person to respond to that next question. Nance Beston, our reporter covering the Ephrata beat, will be serving as our timekeeper. Each candidate will be shown a green card at 1 minute, a yellow card at 30 seconds, and a red card when it's time to quiet down and wrap up everything. Folks, they will be allowed to finish their current thought, but we ask that they respect the rules in that situation. So with that, the candidates have come in and committed to this. We appreciate them agreeing to it. We will be fact-checking everything after this to make sure that only solid factual information goes out to our readers, and that will be published in this Thursday's edition of the Columbia Basin Herald, along with a story that encompasses what was covered here if you're not able to watch the entirety of the debate. The broadcast is going to be distributed, of course, right now on Facebook Live. We'll also be posting it to YouTube and in audio format on the Studio Basin podcast, which is available through Buzzsprout and most other regularly used podcasting platforms. The candidates have been informed of these rules ahead of time and have agreed to them. Further, both have agreed to post only the full recording in audio or video formats to any platform unless it is posted in full. So again, it'll be a full disclosure, no cutting and pasting to suit a narrative. The Herald does not endorse either candidate, and we appreciate both candidates being willing to come in today. It has been a really easy thing for us to pull together once we decided we were going to do that, and that wouldn't have happened were it not for both of you committing to this, so thank you for that. With that, Nance, are you ready with the timing over there? All right, I'm getting a thumbs up. So, Bruce, you've got the first question here, and that's the simple one, 2 minutes. Can you please introduce yourself to the voters of Ephrata in 2 minutes or less?
All right, great. Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Nance. Enjoy your stay, enjoy your coverage. Well, my name is Bruce Reim. I'm a lifelong resident, pretty much a lifelong resident from in Ephrata, as my family and I moved to town back in the late 50s. So we've enjoyed the growth and the experience of small town life and getting into that. I went to school through the Ephrata School District, wandered through the high school, and finally they kicked me out in 1971. Then off to college I went to Eastern Washington, at that time State College, turned into a university while I was there. Got my degree in social work and economics, and came back to town and ended up working about 3 blocks from where I grew up at the Sunrise Group Home out by the airport, where I went from the lowest man on the totem pole to actually being the administrator for the last year or so. So I've got a long time of living in Ephrata and all the stuff. Got involved with politics while I was up at the group home, and just enjoyed the camaraderie and the service that the people were willing to give back to the community, literally at a free cost. So I've enjoyed that, and I've done that, and been involved with the politics and the knowledge and the experience of dealing with people all the way up from local government all the way up to state and federal government. So it's been very enjoyable. It's the retirement happened back in 05 or something like that, and my wife and I and grandkids and great grandkids are all hovering around Ephrata. I can't get rid of them, so they're kind of staying on board, which is a real pleasure for us. So thank you for having us.
All right, and Steve, same question for you. Can you introduce yourself to the voters of Ephrata in 2 minutes or less?
Of course. My name's Steve Oliver. I was originally born at Fairchild Air Force Base in Spokane. I was an Air Force brat, and my family moved around to quite a few states, including Wyoming and Idaho, before we settled in Spokane again. And I lived there till I was about 16, until I wanted to go see the world. And I traveled quite a bit in the country and outside the country to go see what I could. And I made quite a bit of strides in everything I was trying to pursue as a kid. And eventually, in my 20s, I visited a friend who lived in Ephrata, and I couldn't even find it on a map at the time. And when he gave me his address, he said it was 4G. And I said, I never heard of an address or a street so small. And I came to visit him, but the city, I just fell in love with it. I just couldn't wait to come back here and plant roots. And I did that almost 30 years ago. And in that time, I've opened up my own business, and I've stayed constantly steady at my business, and I've won many awards. And when my family started growing, I realized it was time for me to get involved in how they were going to pursue their time and how I wanted them to be raised in this town. And as I had my business, I got to meet many, many people of all different walks, and I got to listen to their stories, and I got to realize that we had a lot in common about what we think needs to be fixed and what we think needs to be improved. I'm not looking for an overhaul of anything, but I really think that things should be examined, and we should find a way to improve anything we can and make efforts to make everything better as long as we're able to. So as a business owner and as a family man, I have all my stake invested in Ephrata and making it the best place I possibly can.
Okay, thank you both for that. Since Bruce was on the hot seat last time, Steve, this is your opportunity. So what is your plan to ensure the city is transparent on the actions of its leaders and how it spends its taxpayer dollars?
Well, the transparency has improved with the city's website, although when I go to review it, I do find quite a bit of pieces missing, whether it's archived or not. But there's certain resolutions that I've noticed that I had to do FOIA requests to get that just aren't listed on the website or the city council agenda minutes. And because of that, it's got me interested in digging deeper, which I use with FOIA requests. So I am actually being a watchdog and trying to find out what I can that the city is being transparent with and not transparent with. My current website that I have, Steve Oliver for Mayor on Facebook, gets around 2,000 hits a day. And with those 2,000 hits, I get thousands of questions, I get emails, and I get lots of phone calls. And what I'm finding is there's a lot of common ground that I have with my constituents. And the way that they're coming to me with their problems, I am finding solutions to their problems which they agree to. These are all theories, but they've all been tested elsewhere and they've been proven to work. So the transparency will have to come with a bigger platform, such as the one I've started from scratch, which gets an immense amount of traffic to it. The way some taxpayer funds are spent right now, we do have people that are split on that. Whether a project was started 6 years ago and it's now coming to fruition, we have people that didn't understand that actually happened. So rather than find a way to make people archive and go back and learn that this happened, we need to be more transparent in what we do, how we do it, and how it's given to people. Polling people personally would be a great way to do this. Walking into businesses to ask how are we doing? Are we doing enough for you? What do you think we should be aware of? How can we fix things? Just actually getting on the street and learning who we're working for. As a public servant, I want to work for free, and I'll forego my salary in order to give it to better programs for kids in town. Of course, I would love to have the money, but the money is for the people. I feel this is like a civil service that I can do my best at. So if people do have a problem, I would hope they would come to me personally and see what I can do for them to help them, rather than stand in line at City Hall and make a request or go to the chamber. I would like to be involved in those first steps of pursuing how to fix this problem.
All right, and Bruce, going to be the same question. What is your plan to ensure the city is transparent on the actions of its leaders and how it spends taxpayer dollars?
Part of the expectation of government is to be forthright and transparent on what you do. Part of being able to do that is making data available. All of our policies and procedures are on our website. The council meetings are all open to the public. First and third Wednesday of every month, we have numerous transparency issues. All of our council and me and most of the staff are on our website and available for questions or comments or any feedback or anything along that line. We feel that we are more than transparent when it comes out to stuff like that. There are always nuances with that, the deep issues that get into that, which means that we have to be open and available to have that. And I think through the years that we've been doing that with the increased mobility with our social media platform, that we've been able to really accentuate the transparency that we have. So we feel very confident about our transparency and the availability to look at all our policies and procedures and expectations on the website. And like we've always said, our door is always open to come in and talk about that. I'm always setting up interviews and meetings and all sorts of get-togethers to talk about this type of stuff, and we'll get into that a little bit deeper.
Okay. And Steve, you have 1 minute for a rebuttal, being the first person to answer the question.
So personally, I searched for information on a piece of information I received where the mayor gave everyone in City Hall a 5% raise back in 2023. Scouring the city's website where it has the city council minutes posted, there was nothing about this measure on the city council website. The raise amounted to around $30,000 and change, but the people were not aware of that because I did not find anything scouring any of their sites saying that this arbitrary raise was just handed out without anyone's approval. I understand it could have been an in-house approval, but the public had no idea about this. And the only way I found out was through a FOIA request. So having our information like that, I think people are more interested in those kind of actions that they would rather be more transparent with, knowing where their money goes and why it's going there.
Okay. All right. So Steve answered the last question first, or you? Yeah. So nationwide and even in Washington, you know, the cost of living is increasing. What can the city do to ensure water and sewer services are continually available and also affordable for residents?
Sewer and water, two of the biggest issues that we have that city government is responsible to take care of. We have over 50 miles of roadway in Ephrata, and underneath almost all of that is water and sewer. The Ephrata town was created back in the 40s as a flight training school, therefore the infrastructure was rather archaic at that time, and we have spent time and treasure and studies to ensure that the water and sewer continue to exist and be available. As our community continues to grow, we've had continued expectations with our wastewater treatment plant, which was built back in 2000. And we are now finding that it is old enough that when we look for parts, we have to go onto eBay. So we have been spending a lot of time in the last couple of years preparing for a complete remodel and reinvention of our wastewater treatment plant. Millions of dollars are being poured into this to ensure there's nothing worse in the city than when you want to get water that it's not there, or when you want to get rid of water and you can't do that. So a big part of our goals and time and treasure as far as putting money into this, and the other part says water availability is a big part of our goals and expectations. As the city people have noticed the new water tower that's going out there, which is going to increase water pressure throughout town, not just in the northeast section, as our reservoir system, again, is quite old and is going to need some attention. So we are currently figuring out how to take care of that, looking down the future to ensure that water and sewer is available with the people. We have also instituted a new program that's called Purple Pipe, to where we can take reclaimed water and use that for non-potable experiences, such as environment changes and institutions and jobs and stuff like that. And so again, we've already done it. You will see part of that come to fruition when the new roundabout goes in up at Walmart. So a lot of plans and stuff like that are already in the works to do that. In other words, the train has left the station. We're just looking for results. I'm pretty excited about the availability to serve the people and the growing community of beautiful downtown Ephrata.
Okay. And Steve, before you get into that, Nance, could you please plug in the device over on my right? There we go. Thank you. And so just to repeat the question, Steve, the cost of living and nationwide is going up. What can the city do to ensure water and sewer services are available and affordable?
Because the city's infrastructure is so old, and it is, like he said, a game of catch-up to fix things that are breaking down and to try to implement new solutions. The problem with Ephrata is we don't have any natural attractions, so we don't get a lot of tourist money, even though we are a tourist town. The answer is very simple. Stop taxing the people for the problems that we need to fix and bring in a secondary source of income. The data centers have tried to come into Ephrata first of all, and when we turned them away, they did go to Quincy. And Quincy did have to build their own water supply system for that. Now, through some research and talking to one of the engineers at the PUD about the data centers, when it was all said and done, we did have the 115 lines from Rocky Ford Creek that we could have used for the power. We could have built our own water system for the data centers. And the obstacle was the city did not want to sell any of the land where the data centers would go. Had we done that, we would get $25 to $50 million per data center in revenue, which could retrofit and make everything brand new, including the water and septic systems. It could also bring tourist activities to town, and it would benefit the town immensely, being a tourist city, for people to actually stop and do some tourism. As it is now, I cannot think of a thing somebody is touring there, so we don't have excess revenue coming in due to the natural attractions not being there. If we look to outsource our income with secondary sources, we'll definitely find a way to find plenty of money to fix everything we need.
Okay. And Bruce, a 1 minute rebuttal.
Okay, first of all, it was the data centers that decided not to come to Ephrata because of the airport and the train track situation, and the fact that Quincy had a network line, a trunk already set up in Quincy. The part of the reason why we felt that the data centers were not usable at that time was, yes, the water, because we didn't have the water, which we're looking at, and then they retrofitted, and the fact that it didn't bring a lot of jobs to town outside of the construction of the data centers, the long-term effects of the data center, besides the money that's given to Quincy, and that's great, no doubt about that, but it didn't bring a lot of employment through the data center into Quincy. So we were looking at all sorts of different options, and at the time when this was going on, Water and the Department of Ecology was quite involved with what was going on, and again, it's money, it's cost, which would be fine. One thing to note is that there's a difference between the Port District and the City of Ephrata, two completely different entities. Oh, definitely.
Okay. All right, yeah, well, apparently Nancy means business with timekeeping over there, so. So with that, next question, Steve, what will you do to keep the tax burden manageable for Ephrata residents?
I'll have to circle back to my last answer and expand on that. We do have the 115 lines at Rocky Ford, which would afford us the power that we need. Quincy had to build their own water system, which we would be willing to do as well. And this is from one of the PUD engineers. So regardless of what went on at City Hall, this is what I know from the people that were at the very base of this whole project, trying to get it off the ground. Now, I was told by a city council member through my Facebook that we were not even in contention, but I find it hard to believe that $1 trillion company would look at this area with no intentions of just poking around. I really believe they targeted this area because of our central location and our ability to have everything focused in one area. They are opening more data centers in Tri-Cities. They're opening them in every surrounding area. We have a lot of industry going to even places that like Connell, getting a lot of work. We are the only city around here that has not taken advantage of something to improve the cost of living by inviting these places here. The money will, of course, they don't create enough jobs after or during construction, I should say. But the money that you get from these centers, you build projects that do bring in money. If you build an indoor water park, you're going to bring in money. You're the only one for 250 miles around here that has one. If you do bring in an ice rink or a BMX track, you will bring in money. If you renovate stadiums, you will bring in the Babe Ruth series. If you do all this, then you're also building hotels, and you're building gas stations, you're building restaurants. It does nothing but create money by finding an outside source to fund it. So, the tax burden would be fantastic on everybody, because unless Olympia raises it, we would have no reason to do bonds, levies, or anything else, raising taxes to afford a new school. We would have enough money in the coffers at that point to build a new school without the help of that. You know, Olympia would find us fairly useless at that point.
Just pause for a moment. I want to be clear. The school district and the city are two different entities, so those are not
Correct.
associated in that manner.
Correct, but fundraising, we could definitely help out.
I just want to make sure that that's clear to viewers and
Right.
readers. So, okay. And did you have anything further on that response?
No, I just think that the people of Ephrata pay a lot of taxes without getting a lot in return. There are not many places to take your kids or your family. So in order to do that, we need to improve things, and the only way you improve it with money. If you keep taxing people to death, they will move away. There are so many vacant buildings in town because people cannot compete. Walmart, when being let in, was a great thing, but it costs a lot of people businesses. If we have a thriving downtown, we'll need people to park and stop and walk to all these businesses and spend their money. If we're a tourist town, let's get tourist attractions.
Finished?
Yes.
Okay. Just want to make sure I don't
Okay.
eat too much of your time up there. And so Bruce, just to reiterate the question, what will you do to keep the tax burden manageable for Ephrata residents?
A big part of the burden that the city has is, again, it goes back to infrastructure, it goes back to, the entertainment part is great. How do you fund it? Bringing in all these outfits, great, how do you fund it? a big part of community behavior and goals and sets with stuff like that is that all communities are based on supply and demand. If there's a demand, the supply will show up. A lot of different entities have looked at Ephrata for growth and for expansion and all that stuff, and they step back and they say, the demand isn't great enough to increase our flow. When Walmart was put in, how many years ago, there's a chunk of property up there on the west side of the property of Walmart that belongs to Wendy's Restaurant. Has been owned by Wendy's Restaurant for decades. We've talked to them and they've said there's no reason for them to come to Ephrata because there's not the demand for the product that they sell. McDonald's came to town, the Mexican place comes to town and all that stuff, which is great. But part of the issue is the development. So a big part of the issue that the city has with this is availability. The city owns very little land. We don't own a lot of land. We manage a lot of land, but we don't own any of it. The point that is that if people want to come to town and do their thing, that's great. We support it 100%. We've bent over backwards talking to people to come in. We have an excellent relationship with the Economic Development Council to where we work back and forth. We are being looked at by many entities coming in to look at our area, and the problem that they're having is, a big problem that they're having is, where are people going to live? Okay, we're working with that. Ephrata is growing, we're getting larger and larger. One of the positive parts that we have for Ephrata, and I think which is a big sell, is that people always check out our school district. We have one of the strongest school districts in North Central Washington, and that is an excellent relationship that we have with them. So as far as tax base and stuff like that, we are more than welcome and more than willing to entertain anything. We've never said no to a business. We've never said no to any kind of expansion or anything along that line. In fact, we have worked very hard to work within them. All we need is people to be able to spend their money to get in to make that happen.
All right, thank you. And Steve, 1 minute for a rebuttal.
By seeing all the vacant buildings downtown, it's pretty obvious that there are other reasons that people are not coming to town, including the flood zone. The flood zone, through a friend of mine that is a surveyor, we've been looking into it to see how FEMA could get us out of it, which is possible. Now we have to work on probable. So that is something I've been working on to figure that out. But by saying that there's no demand for certain businesses unless people ask for it, I really think that doesn't make sense, because there are places, and I'll say even in Seattle, that sell just lampshades. Okay, it doesn't seem like it'd be a big demand, but they have a huge warehouse. Here, we have nothing but land and cheap power, and people are still finding a way to not come here. We need to find a way to entice more businesses to come here with some initiatives. If we were to find a business that employed 500 people, we said, look, how about free power, water, sewer, and garbage for the first 3 months, or the first 3 years? If you sign a 10-year lease and hire 50% locally, let's work with you. That kind of reaching out needs to happen.
Okay. And then Bruce, you get the next question first here. What can be done at the city level to mitigate criminal activity in Ephrata?
Criminal activity, it's hard to put a thumb on it. I want to back up for just a second. It's illegal to gift public funds. So when you're giving away water, sewer, and power, you're breaking the law. So we don't want to do that. We can't do that. We don't do that. There's laws that keep us within that. As far as criminal activity, there are laws on the books. I've got 15 officers that are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I've got 3 staff that are mitigating the office and stuff like that. Our officers are all over it. And again, they patrol over 50 miles of roadway every day. They are on the nut when it comes to criminal activity. The citizens of Ephrata do a great job of informing us and the police department as far as criminal activity. It's difficult to sometimes put a thumb on that, because some of the criminal activity, not all of it, comes from out of town. They bring it into town. We're finding through our officers and their investigations that a lot of the gang stuff is not necessarily, some, but not necessarily by local kids. We also have a very strong presence in the school district and the city, and working with kids, as we've seen in the paper with all that stuff. All we can do is be diligent as far as being on top and doing our routes, and the police department making every effort to minimize. I think the records show that criminal activity in Ephrata is not contained, but it's not as severe as it is in other communities. We feel Ephrata is still a very safe and honorable, and you can go outside and walk at night and you can enjoy that. So the criminal activity is a constant bane that we're working at, but we're always tweaking and working ways to help make that happen. And we really have a great relationship with the citizens of Ephrata, who are willing to let us know when issues arise.
All right, thank you, Bruce. Steve, same question. What can be done at the city level to mitigate criminal activity in Ephrata?
I think the first thing, if it were up to me, would be to investigate what's been done and what has worked and what hasn't worked, and then explore new options. New ideas should always be welcome to fix any problem. I don't see a large amount of new solutions coming to existing problems. One of the big problems is, what do kids do? They're bored. We have nothing for them to do. We have seasonal activities like the pool, but we also have 9 months of what are they going to do? Not everybody wants to do sports, and there's really no options past sports for kids to do most of the year. We don't offer any music or arts programs because that seems to be something that is such a marginalized group of people. We overlook that. We don't have activity centers for kids. We don't have any sort of places they can join. We don't have extra sports. If you, like I said, I'll circle back, if you have an extra supplementary income coming in, you can build facilities that bring in new sports. If you wanted to bring in ice hockey, if you wanted to bring in archery, if you want to bring in bowling, you would have to find a way to fund that, which these funds are available. We can actually access them and talk to these people, come to an agreement, not just take, it's not going to work as a roadblock. There's always a solution to come around and find something. But kids are bored. Kids would rather be on their tablets, rather be on their phones. There's nothing to do outside. We don't have any splash pads. We don't have any sort of activities. The pool has become very expensive to a lot of people, and a splash pad would be great for people that have young kids that don't really need to be bullied by bigger kids, just being raucous and playing in pool. As long as we give them options, we give them more opportunities to excel in other things rather than have free time and spend it on the streets.
All right, and Bruce, a 1 minute rebuttal.
I'm not sure it's the city's responsibility to be the entertainment department. I think there are other avenues, such as the chamber or organizations and such, that can facilitate all of that. And if they have the money and they feel that there's a need for that, again, goes back to supply and demand, I'm all for it. I'm more interested in the correct use of our taxpayer money. We have various things that, issues that we do, and I don't think it's the responsibility of the taxpayer to do that. We put in splash zone. Actually, the splash zone was voted down when it was first brought up many years ago, but the city decided that it was an important part for the community, and we did it anyway. The splash zone, which is great, we will continue to fund that, runs at probably a 60 to 70% deficit. In other words, it's funded by the taxpayer. The amount that they pay to go into the pool is pretty minuscule compared to the operating cost for something like that. But we will always do that. We've got the park down there that we're working on. We are working on grants and availability. Again, it comes down to funding, to where we go back and try to make it better for the city.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right, and our last question tonight, Steve, you'll answer first. What do you think the city, within the limitations of its authority, can do to revitalize the downtown area and improve the local economy?
For me personally, as a business owner, never one day in my business has anyone from the city or the police chief or anybody come to my door and say, what can we do for you? You're here all day, you see things, what should we be aware of? That just doesn't happen. There is no interaction. Business owners are not asked what needs to be done. We're the heart of that city because we're the only ones that are independently owned. When we are trying to make the city better by offering our best to all its customers, we need something in return. We need to know that our buildings are safe. If we have an idea, we'd love to have an open forum to talk about, but I really think it's the leader's responsibility to talk to the business owners and talk to people and get out and meet and greet and shake hands and say, what can we do for you? I don't really think us going to every city council meeting is gonna result in much, and that's why there is a low attendance. I know personally when I've had problems, I don't wanna form a committee and I don't want to take it to a middleman. I'd like to go to someone who can actually help. I find that I've been roadblocked many, many times, as have been other people. We would love to keep serving the city, but we would like something in return where we can expand more. Maybe we can make our signs bigger. We have a ridiculous sign restriction that's made from the city of Kent, which doesn't make any sense population-wise, since they are 3 to 4 times our size, if not more. But the fact that Ephrata used to be this vibrant, neon-filled, great big signs everywhere. You could stand on one end of the Basin and see all the way down to the very end to know where you're going to get something. And now it just looks like an old, sad retirement home with tiny little signs and everything's a shade of gray. There's no vibrancy in the town. The flower pots aren't enough. We need something that makes people feel like they're actually getting something in return. I know if we found a way to talk to business owners and ask them what they would like to do, you're gonna hear more ideas than you could ever imagine. These people would love to make their businesses grow and they'd love to expand. So I really believe that the city can improve the local economy by dealing with the people who are in the local economy.
Okay. All right, and Bruce, same question. What do you think the city, within the limitations of its authority, can do to revitalize the downtown area and improve the local economy?
A big part of the downtown revitalization project has to do with upgrading and meeting the requirements within the system that does that. The flood zone has been very dangerous inside for a lot of people, and unfortunately we've had to deal with FEMA with that for decades on that thing, and it's a difficult situation. We could eliminate FEMA, we could do all that stuff, and your insurance rates will go through the roof. A big part of what we're doing is we're reassessing, as we have put on engineers onto the fact of reassessing the criteria that was used to create the flood zone. So we're looking at that. We also know that unfortunately, the landowners downtown through the flood zone, if they want to remodel or upgrade or do anything like that, once they hit the 50% of value mark, then they're required to meet the expectations of the flood zone requirements. Very expensive. We're having a heck of a time with business who want to do that. So we're working diligently behind the scenes to try to make that available. Part of it has to go back with code enforcement. We are currently in the midst of hiring a code enforcement officer, pretty good chunk of change for that, to reinforce the expectation of the codes in downtown Ephrata. We have been relying on the citizens for way too long for that, and we will be addressing that as we go forward with that. We're also looking at our development expectations as far as people who are coming in and developing and doing extra things. We find that that's really important. Again, that's a $200,000 ticket just to assess our development codes and stuff like that. As far as the port goes, that is pretty much a separate entity. It has a port director and 3 elected commissioners who do the bidding of the director and the system out there. That land is pretty much under control of the airport and the FAA. So there's a lot of issues that they have to work within that, but we have developed a good relationship with the commissioners. We just had a workshop with them here a week or so ago, and I'm looking forward to developing with that. We also have the ability to take a look at our expanding criteria for downtown. We're looking at we have a system set up to talk to all the businesses down there to have them get a little more involved with upgrading their facilities.
Okay. All right, and Steve, 1 minute rebuttal.
You talk about funding everything, which we keep circling back to, and I'll circle back to my solution. a secondary source of income. When people are set to retire, they usually buy a second house or invest in something, stocks, bonds, something that will keep their income coming in when they retire. The town is at that point too where they actually need a secondary source of income to fund these projects, to fund the FEMA study. Even if you put it on the taxpayers, if nothing comes of it, we're out money and we've got nothing accomplished. If we have an excess amount of money by bringing an extra income in, then we can actually not worry about where the money's coming from. It's a constant, steady paycheck that will continue for decades and decades, as the need for data centers will always grow. So we need to have that put in place instead of passing the buck to everybody. Everything's gonna cost money, everything's gonna cost money. Well, let's try to pass it on and have a giant coffer to draw from.
Okay. All right, and that was our last question. First off, I want to thank everyone for tuning in tonight, and especially I want to thank both of you, Steve and Bruce, for coming in. I know that going out and campaigning is about as fun as getting your teeth pulled sometimes, and I do appreciate the effort that you're doing. As an Ephrata resident, I appreciate both of you coming forward and wanting to serve the city. I understand you both have very different viewpoints on how that should be done. However, the fact that you're both willing to do that is appreciated. With that, I'm going to go ahead and read us out. And what would you like to say, Nance?
I was actually hoping to ask one final question of both of our constituents, and that is, what is their favorite thing about living in Ephrata? And I'll give you both a minute. Sorry to throw a spry question on you. Steve, do you want to go first?
My favorite thing about Ephrata is it feels safe. It is the nicest community I've ever lived in. You can leave your doors unlocked. You can wave at people. You don't have any expectation that bad things will happen. It's a very calming place. It just unfortunately is becoming a very dull place. And I want it to improve to the point that I want my kids to grow up. I want them to move away and see the world. And then I want them to come back and raise their own families here. That's what I want for them. I want them to find more than enough to do when they come back.
Okay. And Bruce, other than being in the same city as me,
Yeah,
what
that's
is
big.
Yeah, I know it's a big one. What is your favorite thing about Ephrata? What are some of the things you really love about it?
In my early days of retirement, I spent time working for an insurance company doing seminars on city laws and rules and expectations and such. So I spent a lot of time traveling around. I did not go to one place that didn't have somebody that said, I'm either from Ephrata, I knew somebody from Ephrata, I've been to Ephrata, my ex lives in Ephrata. Oh, well, no, but they always come back, and it's very positive. It's been a blessing to be part of the constituent in Ephrata and to grow and again, kind of like what Steve was saying, the relationships that you build with the people in Ephrata. It's always an adventure to go out and just walk around, because people are willing to talk, they're willing to share, and just by watching the retirees coming in that are moving to Ephrata, we're a desired destination.
Okay. And real quick, Steve, if folks want to get in touch with you in your campaign, how can they do that?
I have a Facebook page, Steve Oliver for Mayor on Facebook, and my email is the same, steveoliverformayor@gmail. And if you contact me through either one of those, you'll see my campaign website, which is steveoliverformayor@netlify.app.
Okay. And Bruce, same question for you. If folks want to get in touch with you, how do they do it?
The Facebook page, and I also have a .com page, Bruce Reim for Mayor, that you can get into, and my phone number's in the book, or you can get a hold of me through City Hall. Always available.
Okay. With that, I'm going to go ahead and read us out. Again, thanks to everyone for watching, for listening in. If you're listening through the podcast, we'll have this up on YouTube probably within the next 24 hours. I just need to go ahead and get that processed. And we'll get that taken care of, and a story will be in the paper on Thursday. With that, thank you for watching and participating. We appreciate y'all. This event has been produced by the Columbia Basin Herald, a local newspaper that has been serving the Basin for nearly 9 decades, including in Ephrata. Our publisher is Clint Schroeder, and our regional general manager is Bob Richardson. Our managing editor is myself, Rob Miller, and our reporting staff consists of senior reporter Cheryl Schweitzer, senior reporter and paginator Joel Martin, sports reporter, Mike Maynard. Then we've also got Kayla Perez, Nance Beston as our reporting staff. The Columbia Basin Herald is published 5 days a week in print and online. The paper's website is www.columbiabasinherald.com. You can contact us at 509-765-4561 for information on advertising and subscribing, or to submit a news tip. You can also do that by emailing me at editor@columbiabasinherald.com. And if you have anything that you think we ought to be covering that you're not seeing in the paper, please email me. I want to hear about it. And don't forget to send in your letters to the editor, again, at editor@columbiabasinherald.com. With that, I'm going to hit the button before Nance's arm falls off here, or well, rather let her do it. And thank you all for tuning in. Have a good day.
Thanks, Rob.